Hi everybody, we are going to start talking about quadratics today, which is super exciting. So at the end of the video, I want you guys to be able to identify and find the following things from a graph: the axis of symmetry, vertex, maximum and minimum, roots and solutions, intercepts, and the concavity. Okay, so first let's talk about what is a quadratic function. It's just a polynomial with degree 2. So y'all see how this is like x squared. Anytime that is the highest degree, it's always going to be a quadratic, and it's always going to be in the shape of a parabola, or it's just a fancy way of saying a U shape. So you're either going to see it up or you're going to see it down. And then again, the highest exponent is going to be a 2. So there's some different types of function or different types of characteristics we're going to talk about for the quadratic function. The first thing that we're going to talk about is concavity. So that just means, hey, are you opening up or are you opening down? So this guy over here, do you see how both ends are pointing up? He has concave up. If you see a frowny face, that means he is going to be concave down. So you just need to tell me up or down. Next is the vertex. The vertex is going to be the very tip or top or bottom of your parabola. In this case, notice that it's the very lowest point of our graph, so that means it's going to be the minimum. So our vertex is always going to be labeled as a maximum or minimum. Because this guy is the very lowest point of our graph, we're going to call it a minimum. Okay, next is the axis of symmetry. It is a line that splits the graph down exactly in the middle. So remember, like in first grade when you did like butterflies and they were symmetric? Same thing. If you were to fold this quadratic over the axis of symmetry, you would have the same thing on both sides. And what's nice about this is that the x value is always going to be the same as the x value of your vertex. So here, notice that my vertex is at 1, -4. And so our axis of symmetry here would be x is equal to 1, because I'm going 1 to the right on my x-axis. Okay, and lastly, actually I think there are two more. The y-intercept is where you are crossing the y-axis. So notice this point here, remember up and down is the y-axis. And then the x-intercepts, sometimes we'll hear them as solutions, sometimes we'll hear them as roots, is going to be the 2 points on your graph where you are crossing the x-axis. So let's go ahead and look at one example. So here, concavity, up or down, we're pointing down. That's all I need for concavity. The vertex, so if I look at the vertex here, it is at 2, 1. And because it is a downwards facing parabola, this is the highest point on our function. So this is going to be a maximum. So our vertex 2, 1 is a maximum. Next, the axis of symmetry. Remember, that's a line that splits it directly in half, and it's always the same number as the x value of your vertex. So I didn't even need to look at the graph. I'm like, hey, my x value here is 2, so my axis of symmetry is going to be x is equal to 2. Make sure that you are writing that as x equals 2. It is a line, so you need to write it as an equation. Okay, next is our y-intercept. Here is where it's crossing the y-axis. Be careful when you're doing your x and y-intercept. Make sure you put the 0 in the correct x or y place value. Here we're going to the left and right 0 and then down 3, so it's going to be 0, -3. And here are our x-intercepts or roots or solutions. Again, you might hear them either way, which is 1, 0 and 3, 0. So there is an overview of all the things you can take away from a quadratic graph. If you guys have questions, come find me. If not, I'll see y'all in the next one.